We're talking about this thing with a funny name called Quai. Got to first find out how this button works. Gosh. Use the keyboard. Okay, cool. Okay. Maybe.
Use the pointer.
Wow. Oh, it's. There we go. Okay, which one did I press there? Thanks so much. My name's Reza Rassool, chairman of Quai, former CTO of Real Networks. You're probably all too young to remember Real Networks, the company that invented streaming media, this thing that we now do instead of going to work. Serial startup with 2 exits to Google. Thank you so much, Pankaj. You actually funded one of the startups. Do you recall Zaya? It was Music Mastermind, we called it Zaya. You didn't know that that was one of the first generative AI solutions. You remember the prompt was a very thin melody that you'd hum in, you might beatbox in, and what would come back to you was a fully orchestrated pop song. And the training data was acquired legitimately. Isn't that amazing? We actually licensed from all the studios, from all the publishers and the authors. We licensed STEM content, and that's what was the training data that would allow you to figure out, okay, for this melody, what is the chord sequence that's appropriate? You'd be able to set your genre of your music. It was generative AI. So long before the term was coined. Apparently, I'm a digital media and AI expert. I want to talk to you about Quai. So I left Real Networks in July with a feeling of sort of unease and angst about AI. At Real Networks, I'd helped pivot the company from its streaming media roots to AI. I set up 2 AI divisions. One was called Safer, which was based on computer vision, face analytics stack, and one was called Context, which was based on natural language processing. Left the company thinking this AI is on an unsafe path. I also asked my question, is it promise or peril? It's a bit of both. You saw our answers were a bit of both as well. It is a bit of both. And to ensure that it's more promise and less peril, we have to be deliberate about how we steer AI. It's not going to happen by accident. It's not going to just be to the benefit of humanity. And so Quai is an organization of a few like-minded people that have this angst, but want to do something practical about it and help steer AI along a more democratic path. That term, democratizing AI, seems a bit esoteric. It seems a bit theoretical. Bring that to a layperson, we now say we're going to make AI personal. So now it's personal. Apologies for the scaling here. Okay, so we are pursuing AI democratization, AI personalization along 3 work streams. One on tools, one on AI fundamentals, and one on policy. And the next slides go into more detail on that. So I'm not going to bore you with terminology. You're all too smart and you know all this stuff already. Why now? The New Yorker said this is the year that AI ate the internet. I think that's quite interesting. Talking about the internet, the .com period that you were reminiscing about, when many of us first started getting involved in startups and so on, that class of young entrepreneurs, one journalist called the .communists. Why? Because we were taking money from billionaires and redistributing it to millionaires. And many of you remember the sort of misadventure capitalism of that era, the bubble that formed and the dot-com bust that happened straight afterwards. AI is going through a similar bubble. Just watch out for the bust. We need to be vigilant. You can learn from that. So Kai described the difference between data and knowledge and how that leads to decisions and actions. We'll come into that in a bit. Most of you have experienced AI prior to November 2022 as classifier AI. The topology of those models is fat input and a thin output. So you remember Silicon Valley, the guy who made the AI that could determine whether an image was a hot dog or not a hot dog. He was very proud of the fact that he could do both, hot dog or not hot dog. So it had a fat input, it took in pixels, and you get a binary output. In fact, the model that we produce for real networks for the context system is actually examining SMS traffic for spamminess, and it would give a spam score out. And it's doing this live between mobile operators, and it's doing it at fantastic speeds. Billions of SMSs are flying past, and we've got this model that is giving it a score, and then the mobile operators can determine what to do with that, whether to lock it or not. That's classifier AI. Generative AI has got a very different topology. It's thin on the input prompt, very fat on the output. It's interesting, if you couple the two together, you can have fat input being compressed, and then it's down very thin. Maybe you can transmit it and then it goes out. So I view it almost like a codec. We might come on to that in a bit. I'm not going to bore you with the history because you've had that. You've had the history lessons. I'm not even going to bore you with all of these questions because I think they're a bit esoteric. So to the discussion about what the future is going to look like. You know, I think it's all a bit clickbaity. Whether humanity is going to go along a path to the Garden of Eden, or whether it's going to be various levels of dystopian future, like The Matrix or Terminator, or even Battlestar Galactica. No, you're all too young to remember that. Will AI take over the world? Is it a super intelligence? Is it aligned with humanity? More clickbait questions, I think, are more. If you try to answer that question, you don't actually have to pose it as AI. Ask yourself, has wheat taken over the world? If an alien spaceship were to come and orbit the planet Earth and look down, they're going to see, wow, wheat is the most successful species on the planet. And it's employing all of these meat bags, these humans, to cultivate it and feed it and transport it around the world and plant it elsewhere. Or ask yourself a more realistic question. Are corporations super intelligences? Well, yeah, they are. More intelligent than a single individual because they're the coordinated collection of multiple individuals. So by their very nature, they're super intelligences. And have they taken over the world? Well, yeah, they have. So you don't have to pose that question about AI. So I've been pondering on what does this have to do with large language models? So my history in digital media and so on, real networks and the developing of codecs, I always see things in terms of a codec. And language itself is the codec of telepathy. What do I mean by that? I've got a thought in my head. I'm trying to get it into Pankaj's head. And so I articulate that. I encode it as language. Pankaj hears that. He decodes it. And that thought, that concept forms in his head, it's not a lossless codec. It's kind of lossy. There might be stuff lost in translation. But this is the way that humanity has grown, the way in which knowledge and thoughts and ideas get transferred from one person to another person. And when language was that formalized way of doing it, in language, when writing was developed, it allowed one generation to pass on thoughts to the next generation in a formalized way, so that it allowed you to stand on the shoulders of your ancestors. AI is doing that on steroids. It's vacuumed up all of the knowledge of humanity, and it now allows us to stand on the shoulders of previous generations in a way that we couldn't do before. And so there's a potential for the breakdown of knowledge transfer, that it's not going to be intergenerational. We now got a repository of new knowledge. Is it new knowledge? It's maybe a silo of all of the collective knowledge of the world. Yuval Harari actually puts this in more pessimistic terms. He says LLMs have actually hacked the human operating system. He says if language is the operating system of humanity, it's the way in which we communicate, the way in which we govern ourselves, it's the way in which we transfer truth. Yuval Harari says LLMs have hacked that operating system. So we're in danger. There is peril. There's the peril of model collapse, where the models are now, they've vacuumed up all of human writing. So what is new? It's going to be the output of the model itself. And so all of the articles that are out on the internet, there's going to come a point where most of them have been developed by AI. They've been written by AI. And so the training process that is sucking up all of that data is going to be sucking up AI data. And model basically eats its own tail. So again, will AI take over the world? Yes, it probably will. Just live with it, okay? It'll happen eventually. And much like wheat and corporations have done, this won't be a Terminator type of takeover. This is going to be a symbiosis. We're going to live with its evils and with its opportunity and its benefits, and we're going to do it consciously. It's going to be a symbiosis and an evolution. Okay, but more to the point, will I lose my job to AI? Well, yes, you probably will. Your job's definitely going to change. And AI is definitely going to develop a new normal for what is expected as a level of productivity. I really don't believe those analysts that say, yeah, we can go down to 4-day working week or a 3-day working week. If the past is any indication of what the future is going to be, I recall when analysts were talking about nuclear power, and they said, it's going to be so cheap, it'll be too cheap to even meter the electricity, and it's going to be free. Really? Is it free? Is it free now? It's not. So I think if the past is an indication of the future, it's going to be potentially another mechanism for widening the wealth gap. Gosh, Matt Small had an idea about cyborgs and centaurs. I think you should join Quiet and just have a conversation with him about that. I don't know how to convey this. And this is all a history of technology that has actually gone past and done away with jobs like the switchboard. What happened to the typing pool? What happened to the mailroom? All of these jobs were displaced by technology. and good, strong, white-collar knowledge worker jobs are under risk, and you know, it's something we're going to have to accept. You click on through. So AI is coming. Co-pilots in virtually every job sphere is going to crop up. The important thing is you should use co-pilots. You should learn how to use digital assistants, but make sure that you don't give up the pilot seat. Don't abdicate creativity or critical thinking to the machine. Okay, so there are three tracks at Quai. One is the track of AI tools. The practical way in which we feel we can democratize AI is to come up with a notion of personal AI, a personal AI operating system where you own all of the portion of AI that makes it personal. So large language models exist, they're publicly available. That's not the thing that makes it personal. It's your data that makes it personal. I'll give you a practical example. You watch Netflix. Netflix uses AI to determine what Pankaj's preferences are compared to Kai's preferences, compared to my preferences. That data is stored in their silo. Now you decided to sign up to Hulu. Don't have a way of transferring those preferences from one to the other. So that's a trivial example of digital entertainment. But what about our healthcare data? I want to be able to own that myself and own it securely. So it's our contention that personal AI operating system is that thing that allows you to own and maintain your own data securely and have the interfaces and the endpoints and the methods to third-party systems so that you can control how that is shared and disseminated. One of the work streams we've got to get back there. Thankfully, we've partnered with one, and they over 100 volunteers forward. So here's a snapshot. More artistic than the lucid diagrams that we sweat over in each working group session, but it shows how your personal AI, the thing that makes AI personal for you, how it is interfaced to the rest of the system. I won't go through this in detail. Come and join one of our working sessions, and you can figure out how you can collaborate on this. A policy track. I'm going to rattle through this really quickly, but it's broadly about making sure that AI is ethical, that models have nutrition facts, and that there's measurements, that the data is well curated and sourced, all the things that we mentioned before around the ethics and so on. Let me rattle through this quickly. AI fundamentals. This is the track that I'm guiding myself, and touches on part of what Kai was talking about reasoning networks. I'm specifically working on fundamental AI, a different alternate formulation of the deep neural network. One that's not based on causality, one that's not based on correlation, it's based on causality. And so a causal neural network has a different topology, and but potentially it's less complex to compute. It's closer to what's going on in the human brain, I think. Some of our approaches are physics inspired, There's a whole class of neural networks, PINs, physics-inspired neural networks. That's what we're working on. This is how a neural network looks currently. Each layer is connected to subsequent layers, and every node in the network is connected to every other node. This is how it has existed for quite a while. Each node is called a perceptron. The mathematics for the perceptron is the thing that hasn't changed since 1942, 43. So one of the areas of exploration is an alternate perceptron, and how we can make that work. Yet another approach is to model the connections between the networks using different mathematics. Here we show how it's used for classifying dogs. And this is one of Kai's drawings, thanks, about reasoning networks, how different they look. Okay. Is my area of pursuit is modeling a neural network using fluid dynamics. Join one of our meetings and you'll learn more about it. But this is, it turns out that the physics of fluid dynamics represents a causal network. And even though it might seem a bit daunting, it actually gives answers that are easier to compute. It converges faster, and I think there's some promise there for making networks that are smarter, faster, and greener. One of our members is working on emergent behaviors. I think that's another fertile area of research where small, seemingly dumb nodes, when they act in concert, manifest behaviors that seem very complex. And we see that in swarms of bees and so on. So join us and come and participate in the fundamental research. I think humans are superior, but we've got to double down on that area of superiority. Don't try and outrun the machine. Don't abdicate your creativity, your critical thinking to the machine. So this is why it started in July when I left Real Networks. I just posted a simple call to action video at kwai.ai. Go check that out. We actually launched it at DataCon LA, the keynote address in August. We hold weekly public meetings. I think we're up to 20 now. It's Friday, 10 o'clock. Come and join us. It's open to the public. In October, we had a summit at a local college in Los Angeles, and that was well attended. Lots of the college students attended and faculty, and then we also had one of our, we had a collection of our volunteers participate as well. The videos of all of this are online, so you can go and have a look at kwai.ai. 3 work groups, tools, fundamentals, and policy have started already in November, and we filed our nonprofit filing, and hot off the press this morning, Commonwealth of Virginia just granted us. So we're a corporation now. Okay, join the movement. There's the details, QR code. If you're an AI thinker, you're welcome. Typically, you're going to be high energy, curious, concerned, and motivated, eager to collaborate on an international, volunteer-based, open source, non-profit movement. So what we ask of you is at least 8 hours of time a month. That's not a lot, is it? That's a weekly 1-hour call. That maybe it's a quarterly summit that you participate. If you can vote more time than that, fantastic. We'd love you on board. So we've formed a board, and we're actively engaging other technology partners. We've got our friends from Arcus Nexus over there that have devoted 6 engineers to us, and that has really accelerated our development. But we've got lots of other great minds on board, and we're looking for more participation. Thanks so much.